Ladies and gentlemen, this is Simon, and I am absolutely fascinated with the power of sound and how it applies in Vedic astrology to your chart. Now, why am I showing you a live baseball game at the moment? You may be wondering. This is how I test my crazy theories and ideas about how the power of sound affects outcomes in the real world. And I'm talking about your name, the name of your business, the name of a team, or any kind of sound that you use to promote yourself or a thing, or even spiritual sounds that you may use. What do they invoke in your life and in your chart? You may be saying the sound Om or Om Ganganapataye Namaha or whatever your mantra is, or prayer or blessing. Is that sound right for you? Well, we're going to find out today. So stick around. Here we go. So this is the chart of an event. Now, this could be the chart of a human being, it could be the chart of a business, it could be the chart of a marriage. It just so happens to be the chart of this baseball game. Now, instead of predicting who's going to win, we can actually look at who is going to do well based on their names. And what I did with this particular game, and it looks like LA is absolutely destroying the New York Yankees. And I had a feeling they would. In fact, I made a prediction that they would. And that prediction is based on the name of the pitcher. Now, the Dodgers, and again, this is research, okay? You don't have to use this with baseball or anything like that. But the name of the Dodgers pitcher, and I'm going to show you how to apply this to your life and your name. His name is Landon Knack. La and na. Those are the sounds. Now, how do you know what the sounds are and where they go? Well, I have in my book, Gambler's Dharma, I have them listed here in what the sounds are for each sign. There are also illustrations you can find that look like this. If you're more particular to South Indian charts, so you have Chuche Chola Lilu Lelo, Ah, and so forth. Um, but for now, let's assume you have the chart and you know what the sounds are. So La is a sound in Aries, which happens to be the seventh house, not a bad house for this chart. So Landon, and Na happens to be in Scorpio, also not a bad house. Now, what are we actually looking for as a potential negative? Well, the eighth house and the 12th house are difficult houses where they indicate problems, especially if there are also malefics there like Rahu, Ketu, or the sun is combusting that particular sound. We'll get to that in a minute. Sixth house can be bad, especially if there are also malefics there, but it can also be neutral for sporting events. In general, if it's your personal name, which we'll discuss in a minute, you probably don't want the sixth house either. All right, so you want to avoid 6, 8, and 12. Well, this guy's name doesn't seem to pose any problems, but let's take a look at the name of the New York Yankees pitcher. Well, his name is Mr. Will Warren. Now, in Sanskrit, there is no we sound, it is V, VI, and VA, Viva. Well, V and Va both happen to be in Taurus. Okay, the sounds of Taurus are I, U, E, O, Va, Vi, Vu, Ve, Vo. So Va, Vi, Vu, V is Will, and Va is Warren. And in fact, the sound Will is just a couple of degrees away from the sun. So it is combust in the eighth house. So just based on that and the fact that his last name is also in the eighth house for this particular game, for this particular event, led me to predict that he will have a terrible game. Now, if you're a gambler, which I'm not, I'm a researcher. Okay, something in my throat there. You can use this information however you wish. But if you are a gambler, you could turn this information. I mean, really, all information is valuable, right? Knowledge is inherently has value. To determine that he would allow a lot of hits. This poor guy has already allowed 8 hits and 10 home runs. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to laugh, but this is happening live right now as we're looking at it. This is live, right? It's the second inning. Do you see how bad it is to have your name in the eighth house combust? Now think about your own chart. Think about your own ascendant, what's in your sixth, eighth, and 12th houses, and think about your name. Maybe your name is Tom, okay? Or Henry, or Julia, okay? Where does the sound Jew fall in your horoscope? Now let's pretend this is your horoscope, okay? We'll pretend this is the same chart. Well, you will take out Gambler's Dharma or any chart, and you will find the Jew falls in Capricorn. Bo jaji ju j je jo j ga gi. Those are the sounds. I'm not just clearing my throat. Those are the sounds in Capricorn. And then guge go sasi suse so. Da sasi suse so da. And then di du de k ch th de do chu che. Cha chi, sorry. Anyway, point is, if your name is Julia, your name falls in the fourth house. Great. Okay. What if your name is Henry? Well, that falls in the 10th house. He, who, he. Well, shoot, it's even very close to the MC. That is a name that will help you rise in life and help you with your career. Okay. But what if your name is, I don't know, Count Dooku? So do, right? Well, do is in the sixth house. So you're going to have lots of battles, lots of, you could tell I've been watching Star Wars, right? You're going to have lots of lawsuits, battles, conflicts in your life. Why? Well, that name is in your sixth house, but it's also conjunct Saturn. Okay? So you can think about this even in your own name. And now you're probably saying, well, Simon, does that mean I have to change my name? If my name is Will Warren, okay, and we're going to pick on this guy. He is a great player. He's a great pitcher. Unfortunately, if the manager of the New York Yankees knew about astrology, he would have known that this is the worst decision he can make is to play Will Warren on this night because his name falls in the eighth house. Now imagine if this were Will Warren's chart from birth. Then every time his name is spoken, the eighth house is invoked. Ladies and gentlemen, do you see the power of this? Do you see why I test it every day? Not every day, every once in a while. Again, for research. Look at what is happening. This is real. Does this happen every time? Well, I don't know, but it happens with enough consistency that I wrote a book about it. I mean, this is literally in my book, The Gambler's Dharma. And it's called The Importance and the Power of Sound. And in fact, in that book, I'm going to read you a little section. I had fun writing this. This is a great book. I think it's well written. There's lessons on Sanskrit and how fun that is. There's charts, there's astrology. There's a difference in nasals. Oh my God, you're going to learn English stuff so well. But the more important part for some of you will be how to use the power of sound in your life. So, hey, sports team owners, meet me at camera 3. One of the easiest things you can do to create a winning franchise, skyrocket profits, and ensure a lasting legacy is to name your team according to astrological principles. Giving a team the right name is not only aesthetically pleasing, it creates real results. In this chapter, I've shown you a few examples of the power of the 10th cusp and its syllable. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Imagine if your team always played with its name on the 10th or on a sensitive point that guarantees profits as well as pennants. That's a baseball thing, like championships. It's easy enough to do. Hire a Vedic astrologer. Done. If the team's chart can be found, you can do a prashna horary. And then I go on to give some examples, and you can read this. You can pause if you want. You can, this is very interesting. You can pause and read this. Okay. So, what are some ways? Let's say you want to be a career person. Find the sound of your 10th cusp called the MC. Okay. Now, in this case, the MC sound is who. Who's on first? That's right. So, what will be a name? Houdini. Okay. Um, I don't know. Hulk. Hulk, I guess you can say, because it's spelled H-U. It kind of sounds that way. Kind of a difficult name, but maybe hoodlum, hood, um, human, right? So who or Hugh, even Hugh, the name Hugh, okay, could help propel you to stardom. Now you want to be as close to the actual. So Hugh is a little bit off. Who is the actual sound. Hugh is a combination of H and U. Um, U is in Scorpio and H is in Gemini, and it still has some flavor of who as well. So sounds can sometimes get a little complicated. So you want to be, if possible, as close to the actual sound as possible. Um, so if you want to name your business uh, a successful name, look for the MC. So look for the moment that the business was incorporated, that it began. Look at its chart and find its MC, the 10th cusp. Look at the sound. Then name your business using that sound. Okay. You can use other strategies. You can use the 11th cusp sometimes. You can use a yogi pointer or something, but really the 10th cusp is proven it works. Now, what if you're a human being? Um, well, you want to avoid the fate of Mr. Will Warren and not have your name be in the 6th, 8th, or 12th house because your life will run along these themes. You want a powerful, maybe you want the sound Jupiter, okay? So this would be key. Jupiter falls in the sound key in the 9th house. So if you want to emphasize 9th house themes of wisdom, scholarship, travel, and so forth, then you can name yourself Keanu or Kiki, okay? Um, so I think you get the drift. Now, how did I get that and how do I know it? I have these memorized. They're in my brain. So if you wake me up at 2 in the morning and say, what are the sounds, in Gemini? Kaki ku ganga cha ke ko ha. Good night, right? But you don't have to memorize them. They're all right. Where are they? Right here. And in other charts. So here's Gemini. Ka, ki, ku, ga, cha, ke, ko, ha. Right? And then Cancer. Hi, hu, he, ho, da, di, do, de, do. Leo, mami, mu, me, mo, da, di, do, de. Virgo, do, ba, pi, pu, sh. This is actually a mistake. This should be sh. Na, ta, pe, po. Ra, di, ru, de, ro, ta, ti, tu, te. And then Scorpio, to, na. Remember I said na is in Scorpio. So power of sound. Now let's take this to another level. I'm going to teach you a technique. Those of you who are still watching are hardcore dedicated astrology people. I'm not showing my face. I don't have any fancy thumbnails. This is for you guys, okay? Sometimes, it's not always, and don't hold me on this, but sometimes you can tell the partner of a person based on the sound of their 7th cusp. Not just the 7th cusp from the ascendant, but also the 7th cusp from Venus. So let's do this for this chart. If this were a man or a woman or any person, their 7th cusp would be at 1 degree, 21 minutes of Aries. The sound would be choo, as in choo-choo train. Okay? Wait a minute. You telling me I have to marry Chewbacca? Boom. Star Wars. Worked it in twice in one video. Chewbacca. No, it doesn't have to be Chewbacca. It can be, I don't know, Chewy. Maybe your partner's name is Jesus and their nickname is Chewy. right? Um, or something like that. If that sound on the seventh cusp is too weird and doesn't make any sense, maybe it's like g or ng, and there's no one whose name starts with that, you can look from the seventh from Venus. In this case, Venus being at 1 degree Libra is the sound Ra. And now you have tons of names with Ra. Randy, Ravi, right? Ravioli, Rama, Rameshwar, Rami, etc., etc. So don't say etc., by the way. There's no X, it's etc. Sorry. All right. So this is how you can find your partner's name in your own chart. What if you want to name a company or a business? What if, let's say you're an astrologer and you want to name your website? Look at the sound of your MC. Again, we determined that this sound is who. So you can call it something like human life prediction or something. Or, um, maybe it's you sell board games. You could call who done it, who done it. Um, Okay, I think you get the drift. I'm kind of drifting here myself. So, the power of sound, ladies and gentlemen, if you have comments, if you have questions, leave them below. I've given you a couple of techniques. In a previous video, I also gave you another technique, how to use the 11th cusp sound to predict horse races or contests with more than two participants. So to predict, and I talk about this in Gambler's Dharma, between two teams, the team with whose sound is on the MC wins. But if it's between three or more participants, like a horse race, a yacht race, a golf, tournament, you can look to the 11th house cusp. All right, those are just some tips and tricks. There are a lot more. I do suggest you check out the book. I don't make any money on it. I mean, I'm the author, but I think I make like less than $1 a book. So that's not why I'm pushing this so that you have the information. Okay. Let me know if you have any comments, and we will see you in the next one. Hari Om.